The clock on the microwave in the communal break room glowed a harsh, unrelenting 9:42 p.m. Zoe walked down the 42nd floor hallway of Apex Technologies, her sneakers making zero sound on the plush commercial carpeting. In her left hand, she carried a heavy plastic takeout bag from the little noodle place 2 blocks down from their apartment. The steam had long since stopped rising from the container, but it was still warm enough to heat her palm through the thin plastic. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a text message she'd received 2 hours ago, while she was still sitting at her own desk 3 floors down. "Working late again, babe. Q3 audit is a nightmare. Don't wait up." At the time, a sharp pang of guilt had twisted in her stomach. She had thought about how exhausted Mark must be, grind-set mentality, climbing the corporate ladder, sacrificing his sleep for their future. She had rushed through her own tasks, packed up her laptop, stopped by the restaurant to pick up his favorite spicy beef noodles, and taken 2 different buses just to drop it off. She wanted him to open his eyes from the spreadsheet, look up, and smile at her like he used to 3 years ago, before promotions and high-rises swallowed him whole. As she turned the corner toward the executive wing, she noticed something odd. The main hallway was pitch black, save for a single sliver of warm, golden light spilling out from the cracked double doors of Mark's private corner office. Zoe paused. She slowed her pace, her heart performing a strange, heavy thump against her ribs. She didn't hear the furious clacking of a mechanical keyboard, nor the low rumble of a late-night conference call. Instead, she heard laughter. It wasn't the stressed, frustrated groan of a man wrestling with corporate algorithms. It was a soft, breathless giggle. A woman's laugh. Zoe crept forward, her footsteps swallowed entirely by the carpet. She pushed the heavy mahogany door open just an inch, just enough to peer through the narrow gap. In true anime fashion, the rest of the universe seemed to instantly stop. The distant hum of the central air vents vanished, the relentless ticking of the sleek wall clock froze mid-second. The chaotic noise of the world narrowed down to a single, hyper-focused frame, striking Zoe's eyes with blinding, horrific clarity. There was Mark, her boyfriend of 3 years, the man she had supported financially through his MBA, the man whose shirts she ironed every Sunday night. He was sitting in his plush leather executive chair. And sitting directly in his lap, her arms wrapped tightly around his neck and her long, manicured fingers deeply tangled in his silk designer tie, was Sarah. Sarah. The lead project coordinator. The woman who always emailed him quick questions at midnight on a Saturday. On the massive dual monitors glowing behind them, a corporate chat window was blinking with bright, neon-pink notification bubbles, casting a sickly, fluorescent glow over their entangled bodies. Is she still texting you about dinner? Let her wait. You know how to make overtime exciting. Zoe's breath caught violently in her throat. Her eyes widened, her irises shrinking to pinpricks as a freezing shock wave rippled through her chest. Every single puzzle piece from the last 6 months suddenly slammed into place with the force of a freight train, the sudden, team-building dinners that ran until 3 a.m., the way he instinctively flipped his phone face down whenever a notification popped up, the excuse of business trips to cities that didn't have client offices. The faint scent of expensive French perfume lingering on his jacket collars when he swore he'd been working alone. It wasn't stress. It wasn't the audit. It was a lie. A meticulously built, 3-year house of cards. Inside the office, Mark must have sensed a shift in the air, or caught a flicker of motion in the glass partition. He jerked his head toward the door. His eyes locked onto Zoe's through the crack. The color instantly drained from his face, stripping away every ounce of color until he looked like a corpse caught in moonlight. In a blind panic, he shoved Sarah off his lap so violently that she lost her footing, tripping backward over the office wastebasket and crashing hard against the edge of a filing cabinet with a sharp, echoing yelp. Zoe. Mark stammered, scrambling backward out of his chair like a trapped animal. His knee slammed viciously into the edge of the mahogany desk. A heavy ceramic coffee mug wobbled dangerously on the edge, tipped over, and shattered against the hardwood floor with a deafening crash, spilling dark, sludgy coffee like a spreading pool of blood. Wait, wait, wait. It's not what you think. We were just, the printer jammed, we were reviewing the client metrics, we lost track of time. Sarah scrambled frantically to her feet, her face burning a violent, humiliating crimson, her hands clawing desperately at her rumpled skirt and crooked blouse. Zoe, please, listen to me, it's a massive misunderstanding. Zoe didn't scream. She didn't drop the takeout bag. She didn't burst into a hysterical flood of tears, nor did she throw herself against the glass. Instead, a suffocating, dead silence fell over the room, a vacuum of sound that felt heavier than any explosion. Slowly, deliberately, Zoe's bangs fell forward, casting a deep, impenetrable shadow over her eyes. Her expression flattened into a mask of terrifying, unnatural calm. The aura radiating from her felt heavy, glacial, and sharp enough to draw blood. She pushed the door wide open. Every single footstep she took toward them echoed through the vast, empty office like a gunshot. Mark pressed his back flat against the glass wall, his hands trembling violently as he held them out in front of him defensively, his chest heaving as if he had just run a marathon. Zoe, babe. Please. Put the bag down. Let's talk about this like adults. Come on. Sarah shrank back against the filing cabinet, unable to meet Zoe's gaze. Zoe stopped right at the edge of the mahogany desk. She looked down at the shattered ceramic mug, then at the glowing chat windows blinking mockingly on the monitor, and finally back up at Mark. You're right, Mark, Zoe whispered. Her voice wasn't shaking. It was dangerously soft, cutting through the heavy air like a razor-sharp scalpel. It's not what I think. Before Mark could process her words, Zoe reached out with her free hand. She picked up his heavy, half-full crystal glass of ice water sitting next to the keyboard. Without a flicker of hesitation, she poured it directly over his head. The ice cubes clattered loudly against his forehead and nose, and the freezing water instantly drenched his expensive designer shirt, plastering his styled hair flat against his skull and dripping in heavy rivulets down his chin. Mark gasped, sputtering violently as the shock of the ice water stole the breath right out of his lungs. It's much worse, Zoe finished coldly. She turned her gaze from the sputtering, soaked wreck of a man in front of her, walked forward, and set the plastic takeout container right in the dead center of his paperwork. The greasy bottom of the bag soaked straight through the confidential Q3 financial projections. She turned on her heel, her jacket billowing sharply behind her in the draft of the cooling vents. Enjoy your overtime, she said softly into the quiet room. She walked past the glass partitions, down the long, dimly lit corridor, and stepped cleanly into the elevator. As the heavy steel doors slid shut, sealing Mark and Sarah away in the freezing isolation of their own deceit, Zoe pressed her back against the cool metal wall, closed her eyes, and let out a long, steady breath. When she opened her eyes again, the panic was entirely gone. Only a fierce, unbreakable resolve remained.